another episode of Search It Up with Sienna, the web series where I use IMDb to discover and talk about all different types of movies and TV shows, and how the people in front of and behind the camera not only make it all possible, but are somehow all interconnected. I talk directly with the talent about their backstories and experiences on and off set, and what they're up to today. On my last episode, we talked with Maggie Roswell from The Simpsons. Jack McBrayer also appeared in a few episodes of The Simpsons, and he was in Wreck-It Ralph. So today, we're going to be talking about Wreck-It Ralph. And join me for a two-part episode where I talk with the one and only Fix-It Felix himself, Jack McBrayer. Wreck-It Ralph was actually the first movie I ever saw in the movie theaters, and I loved it. I've probably watched it like a million times since then, and it's still one of my favorite movies to this day. It's so good, and I love how each character has their own different personality, and it just like, each character, like when they interact with each other, it's just like a good connection. And basically what the movie's about is about this bad guy, Ralph, from an arcade game, who used to like being the bad guy, but now he's realizing he's treated so badly by the other people in the game, like they're real people. And he feels really upset, and then there's the good guy, Fix-It Felix, who's played by Jack McBrayer, and everybody loves him, all the town people in the apartment love him so much, and Ralph wants to be like that, so he thinks if he travels to another arcade game to get a medal, then people will love him. And then he so does that, and he just makes this whole crazy adventure, and it's so fun to watch, and it's so fun to watch all these different arcade games that you may or may not have heard of come to life. I just love it so much. In addition to Wreck-It Ralph, Jack starred as the memorable and always cheery NBC page Kenneth Parcell on the hit sitcom 30 Rock, alongside Tina Fey, Tracy Morgan, and Alec Baldwin. He also appeared in Arrested Development, Despicable Me, Phineas and Ferb, Smurfs The Lost Village, and Ralph Breaks the Internet, as well as being a recurring guest on Conan over the years. Most recently, Jack created and stars in the Apple TV series Hello, Jack the Kindness Show, which is so good. I definitely recommend watching it. And now, without further ado, here's my interview with Jack McBrayer. So how did you get started performing? Did you know from like a really young age that this is what you wanted to do?
That's a good question. I did plays in high school, and that was super fun. I mean, I was always just a playful child, even like on the playground doing play pretend and, playing knights and dragons or cowboys and Indians, whatever you want to do. It was just play pretend has always been one of my favorites. Started doing plays in high school, and I was always kind of the comic relief, and so that was fun. Went to college, and then I wasn't positive I had the chops to make performing a career, a long-term thing. So I took a bunch of business courses as kind of a backup, just to be safe, so I wouldn't, end up on the streets. But then after college, I moved to Chicago, Illinois. Have you ever been to Chicago?
I haven't.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, it's real cold. Go in the summertime. But I moved to Chicago, and there I discovered this wonderful comedy scene there. The one in particular that I fell for was the sketch and the improv scene. That's when I was like, you know what? I want to try this. I want to focus on this, and I want to, make this my career, which was, it's a scary thing to say out loud, but I did it and haven't looked back since.
That's so cool. And I know that you studied at Second City in Chicago. How did you end up there? And can you talk about your experience with improv there?
Sure. So the way I even ended up in Chicago, I went to college in Evansville, Indiana. So I knew that after college, I wanted to try living in a big city because I'd never lived in a big city before. I think I was too scared to try New York, and LA seemed too daunting as well. So my choices were like maybe Chicago or St. Louis or Indianapolis, something in the region where I was. And as it turns out, I had friends who had already moved to Chicago, so I would have a place to crash. And I was like, let me try Chicago. Moved to Chicago, loved it. Oh, such a fun city. Please, please, please go visit it sometime.
It sounds fun.
You're gonna love, and the food there is just stupid.
I
It's
know,
so
I definitely heard about their deep dish pizzas.
I mean, it's like eating lasagna, kind of. You gotta eat it. But once I moved to Chicago is when I really discovered what improv comedy was. I fell in love with it instantly, but I really had not been exposed to it before that. So it was really fun to have that. I think some people call it an aha moment. Where it really does feel like a light bulb has been turned on. I was like, this is what I want to do. It felt great.
Yeah. And I recently interviewed Maggie Roswell from The Simpsons, and I do know you also appeared on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And she suggested like everyone should take improv classes because it's just like something that's great to learn as a skill. What was most helpful for you with learning improv?
Well, I mean, you are correct. Where improv helped me in many ways outside of performance. And I didn't anticipate that. It was such a lovely and wonderful surprise. The foundation of improv, and you may already know this, is you want to say yes, and you want to agree with your scene partner as we are creating this reality, and you want to heighten and help it go further. You take those foundational elements and apply them to your everyday life, and it can make things a whole lot easier, Sienna. Like, it's really wild to just understand, like, for example, any conversation that you're having, I mean, unless you have a list of questions to ask me in an interview, but in general, the conversation that you have, it isn't scripted. So you're kind of making it up as you go along. And what makes it easier for me is to be in agreement of what we're talking about. I mean, not to agree with every single thing you say, but like understand, oh, this is what we're talking about. Let's stay on track. Let's stay focused and heighten it. Great. What can I add to this? How can I be, additive to this conversation, to what you're trying to get? And it's really, I know it sounds a little hippy dippy, but it's kind of true. Like learning to do the jokes that we do for improv. A lot of those principles apply to just your everyday life too. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Should I shut up a little bit more?
No, it's perfect. I love when I have like all these like things like, and I watched interviews back and I learned so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually based on that too, I do acting classes, and one of my favorite things about them is when we do like an improv game, because I feel like it's just so fun, and like all the different types of games there are, it just like feels like you're just like playing a game in real life and like stuff like that.
Tell you, it was wild because again, it was after college, so I was a grown man by the time I started doing improv. But it reminded me so much of being back on the playground, of being a kid. We're making stuff up. Sometimes you're playing animals. You're just doing anything, and it kind of reminds me of cartoons too, where sometimes in cartoons, like the rules of gravity don't always apply. Like Wile E. Coyote can run off a cliff and then be standing there for a second. It's like happen. You can be any character you want. It was so liberating and fun and playful and exploratory. And I met so many great people. I would recommend improv for absolutely anybody.
Yeah. And what was your first professional job, and what do you remember about it?
Gotcha. In acting, you know what? You might be able to find this online and use it when you print this. I was in a coffee commercial called Millstone Coffee. Gosh, and now as I think about it, I look exactly like this with a little cap on and my face is way up in the camera. Millstone Coffee. It was 1,000 years ago, but it was so fun because I'd never been in a place where, there's lights and the cameras and, one of those clacker things to say action. And then they pay you a sick amount of money. I was like, amazing. I mean, I still had to keep my day job and everything, but I will never forget doing that and just how fun it was. And I remember even auditioning for it. And when you make the director laugh, I mean, come on, you can't ask for more than that.
Yeah.
Unless it's a drama.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me too. That's kind of like, that's so sort of like, it was my first job, or like I do a few commercials, or I've done some. It was, what do you say?
Here I am showing off, and here comes the winner, Sienna, now.
But actually, it was really fun. It was for a bowling company called Bolero, and like it was like we had like it was like a pizza party and like you bowled, and it was just like so much fun. I remember because we played like laser tag. There was like candy. It was like amazing.
Play. You got money to play is what you did.
Pretty much, and I missed the Friday of school, so that was very fun.
That went all around.
Yeah.
Beat the system, Sienna. Beat the system. I'm drinking a Coke if you can't show sponsorship. Coke.
No problem. So how did Wreck-It Ralph come your way, and did you have to audition for it?
Well, strangely, it was not exactly an audition. The writers and the producers of Wreck-It Ralph wanted to hear how it sounded like. So they presented it to the executives at Disney. Gosh, it might have been Disney Pixar at that time, even though it was a Walt Disney production.
Yeah.
Those people intermingle a little bit. So what they did is they chose some actors that they thought might fit these characters to do a table read, just so that everybody could hear it out loud, see what parts were really clicking, what parts were getting a little muddy, what jokes weren't hitting, that kind of thing. So they brought a bunch of us. We went to the campus up in Northern California. We got to see everything. It was wild. So that would have been in 2010 when we did that table read.
Mm-hmm.
Then it takes, however, 2.5 years later for the movie to get made. But so, yeah, it was actually just being asked to participate in a table read that got me the part.
Wow.
But like Sarah Silverman was there, Jane Lynch was there. And so I think the executives were just kind of taken with what we were presenting there, that they wanted to continue on with it. And which sometimes doesn't happen, So
Yeah.
I can't that's how it always happens. And I would not say that I'm too proud to audition. I would have happily auditioned for that. And I mean, I continue to this day. So yeah, I'm not too big for my britches. Not yet. I haven't done a Bowl-O-Rama commercial, but someday.
And what about the movie and the character interested you?
In Wreck-It Ralph, I played the character Fix-It Felix Jr. Gosh, I feel like a fool because honestly, he wears a cap, he's wearing blue, golden hammer right here, right? It is kind of funny because I do have things in common with Fix-It Felix, where I think in general, as a person, I like to make sure that everybody's got what they need, everything's in order. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, for better or for worse. And I liked that about Felix. It was interesting when they were writing the script, we didn't want him to be cruel to Ralph, but at the same time, if you know what this character is all about, you have to find ways in which you can communicate what you need, your need to fix it, and not sound like a real jerk to, the protagonist of the movie. But again, that's when you count on talented writers to make that happen.
Yeah, and as a voiceover artist, I know you don't always have the other actors in the room with you. Do you remember which scenes that you improvised?
Yes, like you said, most of it was just me in the studio with the directors and everything. And I think they just do that for efficiency. It's easier to get all that and then edit it together in the way they need it, and just convenience for schedules. But I do remember going in a couple times with John C. Reilly, who plays Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
I mean, half the time you're just laughing. And then I did have multiple sessions with Jane Lynch in Wreck-It Ralph. Me and Sergeant Calhoun have a lot of scenes together. It was so fun. And that's where improv comes in handy, because a lot of times what they do, and a lot of directors and producers will often do this depending on the budget and all that kind of stuff. They'll have you do it as it's scripted, like 2 or 3 times just to make sure you have it. And then they'll be like, okay, now have some fun with it. And so then we get to improvise. We just get to goof around based on what we know about these characters, what we know that we need to accomplish in this scene. But it was so fun to improvise with John C. Reilly, to goof around with Jane Lynch. I mean, these are pros, and they're also just delightful. So
yeah,
it was just a fun, lucky experience.
Yeah, definitely. And after studying improv, was it difficult to like transition to voiceover?
That's an interesting question. Um, sort of, but also I'm not positive I'm doing voiceover stuff correctly because I'll be in the studio and I know that, there's a script. I mean, the great thing about voiceover is you just show up, you're reading the script, you got the microphone. I might act a little more in a voiceover session than like trained voiceover people. Sitting up there like working up a storm and sometimes ready and you're out of breath. Whereas I'm sure a person who has a different style or a different technique might just be very, composed and calm. But yeah, I kind of just utilize the things that I would do in improv and in acting and just use it with the voiceover too. And I mean, like, I have to think that it's working to some extent because they keep bringing me back. I'm not messing it up too bad, I guess.
Yeah. How is the experience working on Ralph Breaks the Internet different than working on the first installment of the Wreck-It Ralph franchise?
Question. It was kind of the same. The good news is that we already had this first one to base on, so it wasn't like we were like finding our characters or anything like that. It was a bit more straightforward, a different storyline and all that kind of thing. I was able to go in a session with both John C. Reilly and Jane Lynch again. Yeah, I guess in neither movie I really have any scenes with Vanellope, do I?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty much just a continuation of all the wonderful characters and wonderful stories that they'd created the first time around.
And do you think that there'll be a Wreck-It Ralph 3?
Ooh, here's I have no idea. But also too, I think there's so many voices that make that decision. And sometimes it might just be on like, did it make enough money? So all of that's out of my realm of understanding, and I'm okay with that. I get excited about doing a fun project that I'm proud of. And if that's the end of it, that's the end of it. But I like wonderful experiences that I would be proud to show a family member, that I would be proud to talk about, that kind of thing. That means more.
Yeah, definitely. And in addition to your animation roles, you worked on 30 Rock as Kenneth. And I watched I'm not the whole season 1, but I think I'm pretty close to being finished with it. And one thing I love about your character is it's just so he's so like awkward and like funny though, but like funny at the same time that like one of my favorite episodes is when you're helping like Tracy Morgan and like you're like getting all the things for him, and it's just so funny to see you like go to this like weird fish place and be like, I get nervous when I ask all these questions and stuff like that.
Are those your real fingernails? Yeah, that was the wildest experience. That went for 7 years. And what was really cool was that early on, Tina Fey and the other producers were like, oh, okay, it's funny when we put Kenneth with Tracy. Let's do that all the time. So it was such a fun job, and it really changed everything for me. As much as I had found success in Chicago doing the improv, the Second City, which was, a paying gig and everything, until I got on 30 Rock, it opened up a lot of doors. I probably wouldn't have been on, I most definitely wouldn't have been on Wreck-It Ralph if I hadn't been on 30 Rock. So yeah.
Yeah.
I owe a lot to Tina Fey, who I met in Chicago at Second City.
Wow. And how did that role come to you for 30 Rock?
Good segue. So it was Tina Fey. I knew Tina and her husband, Jeff Richmond, from Second City days. Tina had gone on to SNL in New York, and so Jeff had moved to New York with her. After I left Second City, what's crazy? Just yesterday was the 20-year anniversary of my final night at Second City.
Wow.
Wow. 20 years, gosh. Give me a lot of filter here, Sienna. But after that, after I was done in Chicago, Jeff Richmond, Tina's husband, was in New York saying, hey, I want to remount this play that I had done in Chicago. I know you're not busy with Second City anymore. Would you like to come and do this play? I was like, yeah, because I didn't have anything else to do. I left my job. So I went to New York. I was going to do like a 3-month run of this play. But while I was living there, I was like, this is awesome. So I just moved to New York and I was there for 3 years. Um, and so Tina was still at SNL, but during the course of that, she started developing the idea for the TV show 30 Rock.
Mm-hmm.
As she was writing it, she wrote the part for me, Sienna. I'm not going to lie. I did have to audition, but Tina Fey wrote the role of Kenneth the Page for Jack McBrayer. Imagine if I didn't get it. Oh, how humiliating would that be?
Yeah, and that actually goes like right into like the next question I was gonna ask. So I watched an interview with on Conan with you and Conan, and you're talking about how Tina Fey actually like pulled some of Kenneth like from your real life. Like for example, you talked about like how you wrap soda in tinfoil and eat garbanzo beans out of a can. Is there anything else that Tina Fey like used from your life?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm kind of a meticulous individual, so I think they were able to just like, imbue Kenneth with some of those qualities. She knows I hate fingernails. I cut my fingernails so short. Can you see that?
Yeah.
I don't like fingernails. We're humans. We're evolved. We've moved past. We don't need it. But between that, I mean, just little things. She knows I don't drink coffee. So there was one episode that might be season 2, so I won't spoil anything for you. Yeah, it was one of those things, but it wasn't just me. They would like take things from Tracy's life. They would take things from everybody's personalities and then be able to flesh out the characters in those stories. So I wish I could say like, yep, it's all me. No, it's the writers just paying attention and making jokes. And here's a fun little tidbit that some people don't know. I don't know if you know who Donald Glover is. He's an actor. He's on Community. He's on this TV show Atlanta. He's a musician who goes by Childish Gambino. He was a writer on 30 Rock for at least the first 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons. He's from Stone Mountain, Georgia, which is where they made Kenneth from. And so Donald was extremely important in writing the Kenneth storylines because of that.
Wow.
Pretty fun, right?
Yeah, that's a good fun fact.
Track down Donald, see if you can get him on an interview.
Yeah.
You can say nice things about me.
Yeah, I definitely will. And how is it working with Tina Fey and the other cast members? Like what was like most rewarding about it?
I mean, first of all, I kind of just couldn't believe that I was on a TV show. Small town Georgia, and we didn't know anybody in Hollywood, so it's not like I'm like, I'm going to follow that path. I was doing it all by myself, and so sometimes I would just have to pinch myself where I was like, I can't believe I'm in a scene with Alec Baldwin, who I've seen in movies since decades. Tina Fey, the head writer of Saturday Night Live, which for any comedian is just like the pinnacle of anything you'd ever want to reach. And also they were just funny, lovely people, including our guest stars. We had some amazing guest stars come on, and now I'm like friends with some of these people because they came and did like one day on our little show. I really, sometimes I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm doing it. I can't believe I'm talking to Sienna. I mean, you said it wouldn't happen, and it happened. I've arrived.
Yeah. And actually one other Kenneth moment I actually just thought of that's probably I like even like a little bit more than the one I said before is when it's the end of the episode where like you do Conan and like Conan comes on with like Tracy and he has to like take the pill and everything and you have to go get it and then you at the end it's like a cut of like you're like, so yeah, I will tell you about this, and then you're like, do you want to see me claw? So like, oh, I don't know if the audience will. You do?
Stupid. They would make me do the silliest stuff, and I loved every single second. And here's a fun fact. I don't know if you know, but like me and Conan are friends in real life.
Yeah.
And he loves just picking at me and poking. He is the funniest guy in the whole world. I would do anything for him. So the fact that he would come on our show a few times, that was really special. And it was fun that they got to put me in a scene with him. I like that.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Hope you're enjoying the interview. Make sure to stay tuned for part 2 of this episode with Jack McBrayer. See you then!